Alrighty friends, we are starting our new chapter book today, and it is one of our calendar mysteries, and it's September Sneakers. So these are kind of similar to our Magic Treehouse books. There are 4 characters: Bradley, Brian, Nate, and Lucy. Okay, and not Nate or Nate. What?
Nathan Drake.
Nathan Drake. Oh yes, like your game. So anyways, we are going to be doing September Sneakers for this month. Next month there's an October book that we'll read too. But for today we're going to read chapters 1 and 2 for September Sneakers. Chapter 1, Surprise at Sunrise. Come on, pal, let's go visit Goldie, Bradley Pinto said to his dog. Pal followed Bradley and his twin brother Brian and their friend Nate Hathaway and Lucy Armstrong to the barn. It was the last day of summer vacation. Bradley was keeping Goldilocks, his first grade class's pet hamster, over the summer. She lived in an aquarium in the barn. The Pinto's pony, Polly, also lived in the barn. The leaves on the maple trees near the barn were just starting to turn red. A September breeze bent the tall grass in the meadow. The kids were wearing t-shirts and jeans. I can't believe summer is gone, Lucy said, but I can't wait to meet our new teacher. Lucy was staying with her cousin Dink Duncan for a year. Her parents were helping build a school on a reservation in Arizona. I wish we could have Mr. Vouray as a teacher again, Nate said. He tells good jokes. Nate was Ruth Rose's little brother. Ruth Rose and Dink were best friends with Josh, the twins' older brother. But we're in 2nd grade now, Brian said. The kids walked into the barn. Pal ran ahead. His long ears almost touched the ground. Pal is going to miss Goldie when we bring her back to school tomorrow, Nate said. Bradley walked over to the workbench. Goldie the hamster sat up in her cage and began squeaking. The kids carried the cage outside. Pal followed them. They set the aquarium on the grass and took off the cover. Pal flopped down on his stomach. Bradley reached in and picked up Goldie. She felt warm in his hands, and he put her down next to Pal. Pal began poking the hamster with his nose. Goldie climbed up Pal's nose and sat on his head. We should take pictures, Brian said. I'll bet we have the only dog who lets a hamster sit on his head. The kids sat on the lawn and watched Goldie walk on Pal's back. When she got to his tail, she turned around and walked back to his head. Bradley pulled a leaf of lettuce from his pocket. He set Goldie on the ground and put it in front of her. Goldie started to nibble on the lettuce. Pal nibbled the other end. I wonder if Pal knows Goldie is leaving tomorrow, Nate said. We should buy Pal a stuffed hamster so he doesn't get lonely, Brian said. Pal will know the difference, Bradley said. Stuffed hamsters don't smell like real hamsters. Pal can smell Goldie from a mile away. Just then, the back door opened. Lunch is ready, Bradley and Brian's mom yelled. The kids put Goldie back in her cage and carried it into the barn. Pal followed them and barked. He's saying goodbye, Bradley said. The next morning, Bradley and Brian got up early for school. They were eating breakfast when they heard a knock at the back door. They looked through the glass and saw Nate and Lucy. Be right out, Brian yelled, and he slurped the milk from his cereal bowl. Both boys put their bowls and spoons in the sink. They popped their heads into the living room to say goodbye to their parents. Then they grabbed their book bags and raced out the back door. Let's go get Goldie, Bradley said. We can carry the aquarium to school in my old wagon. All 4 kids were wearing new shirts and new sneakers, and they carried new pencils and lunches in their book bags. Bradley ran into the barn first, but then he stopped in his tracks. Lucy bumped into him. Nate and Brian peered over their shoulders. The aquarium was gone. Chapter 2, The First Sneaker. "Where's Goldie?" Bradley asked. "She was right there," Brian said, pointing to the space on the workbench. "Her food is gone too." "What's this?" Lucy asked. She picked up a tiny sneaker from the workbench, and the 3-inch long sneaker was bright green. There was an orange lightning bolt on one side, and the sneaker was attached to a chain with a key ring on the end. Bradley looked around the barn. Maybe Josh had moved the aquarium. He saw a lawnmower, 2 old tires, and a few rakes and shovels. He did not see a golden hamster with shiny black eyes. "It's pet nappers!" Nate cried. "Search the barn!" Brian yelled. They all scattered, peeking in every dark corner. Bradley thought of Polly. He sprinted to the pony's stall. She was there, looking at him with big brown eyes. "At least they didn't take you," he said. Suddenly, Pal let out a howl. He sniffed the barn floor and raced out into the yard. A minute later, he came back. He sat under the workbench and whimpered. "Pal smells the hamster stealer," Nate said. "Maybe whoever took the aquarium left this sneaker here," Lucy said. "Dibs on the sneaker," Brian said. He snatched the sneaker and attached it to his book bag. "The kids at school are going to hate me," Bradley said. "I was supposed to take care of Goldie." "It's not your fault, bro," his twin said. "The crook must have come during the night." The kids walked to school. Bradley felt an ache in his stomach, and he had been so happy about the first day of school. Now he felt rotten. They were all looking up at the leaves, which were starting to change to yellow and red. The sun behind them made their shadows long. When they got close to the school building, Bradley noticed something. A pair of green sneakers was hanging from the tree branch. They were normal size, like an adult would wear. Both sneakers had an orange lightning bolt. "Look," Bradley said, pointing up at the sneakers. Brian grabbed the little sneaker hanging on his book bag. He held it up. "They're exactly like this one," he said. "Who put them there?" Nate said. "They look brand new." The kids heard a bell and ran toward the school. Mr. Dillon, the principal, stood on the front steps. He shook hands with each of them. "Welcome back," he said. "You're second graders now, right?" "Yes, sir," the kids said. "Wonderful. Your new teacher is Miss Terry," Mr. Dillon said. "I know you'll enjoy getting to know her. Now scoot along and have a great first day." Bradley had seen Miss Terry around the school last year. He hoped she was as nice as Mr. Verray. The kids hurried into the building. It was noisy. Kids were trying to find their rooms. A few moms and dads stood around looking worried. One little girl was crying as her mother tried to take her into a classroom. Some older boys were yelling at each other. Bradley, Brian, Nate, and Lucy headed for the second grade classroom, and they passed Mr. Verroy's room. "You guys go ahead," Bradley said to the other kids. "I've got to tell Mr. Verroy about Goldie." "Not alone, you don't," Lucy said. "We're all going to tell him." Lucy pushed open the door to Mr. Verroy's room. Most of the seats were filled with first graders. They all stared at the 4 second graders. Mr. Verroy smiled when he saw Bradley, Brian, Nate, and Lucy. "Hello there," he said. "Your new room is next door. Remember?" "We know," Bradley said, "but we have something to tell you." "Sure," Mr. Verroy said. He leaned against his desk. "I'm all ears." Mr. Verroy picked up a key ring from the desktop and attached it to his belt loop. Bradley stared. Dangling from the ring was a miniature green sneaker with an orange lightning bolt. All right, so that is the end of our chapters 1 and 2. We'll pick this back up tomorrow and read chapters 3 and 4, okay?
Okay.